friends, I'm Erin Mack and welcome to my channel. It's the March wrap up. What am I saying? We're talking about the books I read in March. That's what it is. How are y'all doing? I'm good. You can tell by my hair that I'm growing my bangs out, growing my color out. We're growing. Oh, I'm also trying out a middle part. I'm not sure how it's going, but you know, trying things out. Okay, before we start, make sure to subscribe. I'm trying to get to 1,000. Yay. Is begging too much? Probably. You know, do it if you want to. But do it. Let's just get into it. I mostly stuck to all of my March TBR, what I said in my February video, except guess what? I didn't read this one. I didn't read it. Y'all, I'm just not excited about it. Let me know if you really like this book. Leave a comment and tell me why I should read it because I'm not excited about it. And there are so many other books that I want to read that it's being put on the back burner. Great. The first book that I read in March, this big old book about the curse. Okay, A Court of Silver Flames. I watched my March TBR, that part of it, and realized like I really didn't know what I was talking about when I told the plot of this book. But you know, it's about Cassian and Nesta, and that's basically all you need to know. Let it be said that I am a fan of ACOTAR and the series. Court of Mist and Fury is one of my favorite books. I love it so much. So I probably am a little bit biased, but I will say with this book, if you are not super invested in the characters, I don't know if you would like it. There's not a ton of plot. It is heavy on healing Nesta's trauma, which I honestly do think is interesting, and seeing her journey, I did like that, but yeah, I thought it was okay. Like I said, I enjoyed seeing Nesta's journey, but it wasn't my favorite. I also thought the steamy scenes were kind of boring, and it made me be like, do I still like steamy scenes? What's happening? So I was a little concerned that I felt like that. The next book that I read was the Kiss Quotient, and that told me, no, I do still like steamy scenes, and it was just the writing. It just like was the same thing over and over again. Yeah, with A Court of Silver Flames, it was just the same thing over and over again, and it wasn't so much about the feelings, but just the action for the steamy scenes. And like later on, it's very obvious that they have feelings for each other, but without too much spoilers. There you go. That's my review of that. I liked it, not one of my favorites. Another book that I read that I just mentioned was the Kiss Quotient, and everyone on Bookstagram warned me that this was super steamy, and I was like, oh yeah, ha 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 ha. No, it is so steamy. I was warned and I was not prepared. This is, woo, it's very spicy. I really enjoyed this book. Stella, who is autistic, feels like she needs to be in a relationship, but she doesn't really know how to navigate that, and she feels like she's bad at it. So she hires an escort for him to teach her the ways of the bedroom and relationships. Really great autistic representation, own voices for that as well. It was also fun to see the escort, Michael, his relationship with his mom and his sisters. And there was a lot of great family dynamics and how to navigate family trauma and that sort of thing as well. Yeah, it was just really sweet while also being very spicy. It was really good. And I can't wait to read the next book in the series, The Bride Test. Next, I read Blood Heir, which is a young adult fantasy novel. The premise of that is, I'm so bad at plots. The fantasy world is kind of in a Russia-inspired world, and the people who have magic are oppressed, and they have what they call affinities. So if you have an affinity for water, you can control water. So it was basically like anything for flesh, and you would be like a butcher, and you could control things like that. Our heroine can control blood, and that's like never been heard of. That's like considered really scary and bad. She is framed for murdering her father, who is also the king, and she has to flee from the royal family. She goes into hiding, people think she's dead. Basically, to clear her name, save her family, the crown, the country, she has to team up with this con man. Morally gray characters, enemies who are forced to work together. They're both like, of each other. And of course, they slowly start to warm up to each other. Maybe they fall in love. This is like hardcore slow burn, which I really appreciated in this because you could really see them developing feelings for each other, and that was nice. This has bloody fights, a masquerade ball, twists and turns. I really enjoyed it. I actually saw the author on TikTok promoting her books, and I was like, ooh, yeah, that sounds fun. Thanks, TikTok. Oh, by the way, follow me on TikTok. I make funny meme videos about books and share what I'm reading and my recommendations and stuff. So I read 2 more books. Both of these are romances. I read my second historical romance called The Darling Duke to elevate her status in society, to get her sisters to have a better chance of marrying. She fakes an engagement to this reclusive, elusive duke who like nobody sees. Everybody's kind of afraid of him. When she's like, yeah, we're engaged, everyone's like, ooh, what? And so it elevates her status. But the duke is real and he hears about it and he's like, this girl has moxie, so I'm gonna see what she's all about. I like this one. I don't think historical romances are really my thing. Just the way they talk to each other, and there's kind of like taboo around like the spice. And I get that people can be into that and that kind of stuff, but I don't know. Not really my thing. I totally understand why people like this, like the grandioseness of it all. The grandioseness of it all? Is that a word? I don't know. The grandness of it all. The balls, the romanticism, whatever. And I think that's why I like high fantasy. But yeah, overall I liked it. I just don't think historical romances are really my thing. And now, talk about my favorite book that I read this month. Can you guess what it is? Act Your Age, Eve Brown. I read it and it was so good. And like, when does that happen? When you are so excited about a book and it completely lives up to the hype, to your excitement, to your expectations. Y'all, I love this author. I love this series. I love this book. It was so good. It was so good. Okay, so basically Eve Brown still lives at home. Her parents are like, hey, enough. You need to get your life together, grow up. She gets really mad, she storms out. She's like, okay, I'll show them, and randomly gets a job as a chef at a bed and breakfast. First off, I was like, wow, your confidence and luck. I know it's a book, but I'm trying to find a job right now. And I'm like, how did she do that? Tell me your ways. Yeah, so she gets this job. The owner, right off the bat, they clash, and as enemies to lovers, you have Mr. Grumpy and Sunshine together. And oh my gosh, this book is so funny. It's so funny, and Eve is just so amazing. She's so great. You also have representation with a Black main character, autistic main character, and family neglect. Overall, really good, so well written. I mean, you know, I think that this author is just one of the best romance writers, one of the best writers. I mean, I don't want to sound like that qualifying it. She's just so good, and it's so steamy. It's probably the funniest and steamiest book out of the 3 of the Brown sisters. It's so good. If you want a contemporary romance, read these books. I mean, don't get me wrong, Get a Life, Chloe Brown has my heart, but this book, so good. It's so good. Read these books. Please, if you read any of my recommendations and you like romance, read these books. Oh, I loved it so much. And those are the books I read. I normally do my TBR at the end of my wrap up videos, but for April, I don't really know what I'm reading. I'm currently reading The Bone Criers Moon, basically about these magical women who bury the dead in order to become one of them, fully realize your magical powers, whatever. You have to kill your soulmate. And so you have enemies to lovers with this one. She goes to kill her soulmate, things go awry, then shenanigans ensue, basically. I'm currently reading that. I like it so far. It's a little slow in the beginning, but I'm about halfway through. I still like it though. I think my main goal in April is to read more romance fantasy, high fantasy romances. I feel like I don't see a lot of that subgenre besides From Blood and Ash and ACOTAR. So I'm trying to seek those out right now. So hopefully at the end of April, I'll be able to be like, hey, here's all the high fantasy romances that I read. People have been liking that video on here, and then I did a recommendation video on Instagram and people really enjoyed that. So I'm trying to read more of that genre to give more recommendations, because that, honestly, that is my favorite genre, high fantasy romance. And not young adult, you know, have those steamy scenes in there. Yeah, if you have any recommendations, comment down below. I'll probably be reading The Bridge Kingdom, and then there's another one that I have. I'll pop it up right here. I'm also reading this series by this author. I think that's it. Hope y'all enjoyed this video. Make sure to give it a like and subscribe. I'll see you next time. Bye. Yay reading. Okay.